It's been about a year and a half since my previous upcoming MMOs vid, and in that time we've not only had many MMOs on that list actually become playable, but we've also had a lot of newly announced MMOs. The goal of this video is to be the most comprehensive upcoming MMOs list for the next year, and there'll be timestamps in the description for you to navigate around. Some of the games mentioned here will be currently playable in an early access pre-release state, whilst others will be in early development with expected release dates ranging from later in 2025 to the distant future. This video took a lot of work and I've been getting killed in the YouTube algorithm recently, so please support the content by helping us out with a like and listening to today's sponsor, Ragnarok M Classic. If you miss old school Ragnarok Online or you've never tried it, this is the officially licensed return to that cozy party play grind on iOS, Android and PC. But this time no paywalls, no cash shop changing the rules, just adventure. Fight monsters, complete quests, sell your drops and use the new in-game currency Zenny to get everything. Gear, cards, materials, even headwear bought and sold on the player exchange. No swiping a card, no premium items, meaning everyone plays by the same rules. Upgrading gear is stress-free too. As long as you farm and bring the right materials, your upgrade to plus 15 is guaranteed. No coin flip fails or broken items. Free offline battle keeps your character grinding whilst you're away, so you can log back into some real progress. There's also a monthly pass which is free for everyone forever. Just log in to claim bonuses to XP, drop rates and monthly cosmetics at zero cost. Classes are the heart of RO, and Ragnarok M Classic keeps the 6 originals: Swordsman, Mage, Archer, Thief, Acolyte and Merchant, each with its own skill tree and playstyle. You can also freely switch roles in real time with just a tap, so your party always has what it needs. Then take your party into limit testing team instances, story-driven dungeons and big boss fights that demand coordination, dodging attacks, breaking shields, handling mechanics, and of course, get rewarded with that juicy loot. And all in good MMORPG fashion, you can also chat in bustling towns, form guilds, tackle weekly activities, and idly explore the world. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description to download Ragnarok M Classic and start your adventure now. Chrono Odyssey is an upcoming dark fantasy Korean MMORPG developed by Chrono Studio and published globally by Kakao Games. This is a full open world MMO with an action combat system. The game has a mix of both PvP and PvE content but leans more in the direction of PvE, and has both a user interface and gathering system rather similar to New World. I covered the recent closed beta test for Chrono a few months back on the channel, and considering it was aiming for a late 2025 release at the time, it wasn't looking good. Since then, the devs have acknowledged all the feedback from testers and the game will rightfully be delayed until 2026. Chrono Odyssey will be buy to play and potentially not pay to win, so if the devs can get this game up to a good state of polish, it could be a decent MMO to look forward to next year. Archeage Chronicles, formerly Archeage 2, is a upcoming MMORPG developed by XL Games and published by Kakao Games that should be releasing in 2026. Unfortunately, Archeage Chronicles seems to be way less massively multiplayer than the original, with the devs describing it more as a shared world online action RPG. There will be party play and up to 20 player raids, but those massive open world faction wars from Archeage 1? Probably not happening, hence why the devs dropped the name Archeage 2 and went for the Chronicles name instead. As for features, expect player housing, dungeons, life skills, arena PvP, a big focus on narrative and storytelling, as well as an action combat system. Archeage Chronicles is another Unreal Engine 5 MMO, and for me personally, I think the success of this one rests entirely on how good the combat is, considering the lack of a focus on the massively multiplayer world. AION 2 is an upcoming high fantasy MMORPG made in Unreal Engine 5 that will be releasing in Korea and Taiwan Q4 2025, with a global release mid-2026. AION 2 has been in development for 7 years now, and despite being cross-platform on both PC and mobile, it does seem like AION 2 is more PC focused. The game will feature a mix of both PvP and PvE content, including Realm vs Realm, open world PvP, dungeons, raids, solo PvE PvE content, and of course the iconic angelic wings and the ability to fly absolutely everywhere. AION 2 recently shared some actual gameplay, and the game is looking a lot better than I expected. I covered it in a recent vid, so go check that out if you want to find out more. The biggest risks to AION 2 being a success or failure, in my opinion, will be the monetization, as with every Korean MMO. Blue Protocol Star Resonance. Now this is different to the Japanese Blue Protocol by Bandai Namco, which was shut down in January 2025. A Tencent-backed developer purchased the rights to Blue Protocol, made a bunch of changes, improved the combat, changed the core gameplay loop, and it will be releasing globally in 2025 as Blue Protocol Star Resonance. Features-wise, the game is entirely PvE focused, no PvP. It's got life skills, social activities, a story-driven linear MSQ similar to Final Fantasy XIV, PvE dungeons, solo challenges, and world bosses for up to 20 players. Monetization-wise, it's free to play with cosmetic gacha and a battle pass. It also features quite a fun movement system with some crazy air jumping mechanics. Soulframe by Digital Extremes, the same developers as Warframe, isn't really an MMO but more of a co-op RPG/MMO LIte. It's a game most MMO players will likely enjoy though, due to it having a satisfying action combat system, top tier audio design, nice visuals, and a unique world and theme to explore. I played and covered the Soulframe alpha on my channel earlier this year and actually had a lot of fun with it. The game is likely to release late 2025 or early 2026, and this is a game that I think has a high likelihood of actually being good, so keep this one on your radar. Ashes of Creation is probably one of the most ambitious MMOs currently in development, with its main selling point being its node system, where cities and towns dynamically evolve depending on what the players on the server are doing. This is a true MMORPG with thousands of players per server and a huge mix of both PvP, PvE, and casual content. It also falls more into the Sand Park MMO category, which blends both sandbox and theme park elements. Ashes of Creation has been playable in its Alpha 2 state since October 25th, 2024, and has recently transitioned to its Alpha 2 Phase 3 stage, where the game will have 24/7 uptime. As for a full release, no official date yet, but I'd estimate sometime in 2027. And after playing the game, I'm definitely looking forward to it because the combat and class design is amazing. The world feels massive, and it's not going to be pay to win. It's just a very long wait for the full release. Subscribe to my channel if you want to keep up to date with Ashes, as it's a game that I regularly cover on the channel and is the MMO that I'm personally the most excited for. Project Ghost is a new in-development MMO from Fantastic Pixel Studio, aka the studio led by ex-WoW and Riot dev Ghostcrawler. This project was announced in late 2023 and they've already started showing early gameplay via playtests with popular streamers. For only 18 months of development, I was actually really impressed with what was shown. As for the game itself, it's being built in Unreal 5 and seems to be innovating by splitting the world into blue zones, which are solo or small group roguelike runs, and red zones, which are your typical shared world areas with bosses, quests, PvP, and social hubs. The game is probably still a fair few years away from a full release, but it's a veteran-led team and they've seemingly got a lot done in a short space of time, so hopefully we'll see it before 2030. Ragnarok Online 3 is the official sequel to the classic Ragnarok. Revealed at G-Star 2024 and developed by Gravity in collaboration with Joymaker Games, the game sticks closely to its roots. Think familiar jobs, 10-player dungeons, Guild League PvP, and that same pixel art charm, but with a modern twist. Full 3D environments, a seasonal world model that refreshes itself periodically, and a focus on a fair, non-pay-to-win business model. Well, hopefully, anyway. The game had a public playtest in August 2025 featuring a 10-player dungeon and guild PvP. There is, however, no confirmed launch date yet, but 2026 is looking like a realistic target. Bellatores is an upcoming PC-only medieval MMORPG by Korean developer NU. This game's already been in development for 7 years. It's being made in Unreal 5 and drops typical leveling and classes for a mastery-based progression system, letting you develop combat or crafting specializations as you go. The world revolves around 5 noble houses in a constant state of political strife. PvP wars, crafting, and regional control are a big part of this game. The game is action combat combat with weapon switching, dodging, stamina management, and loot only comes from crafting or trade, not monsters. Korean closed beta testing started July 2025, but there's no global release date yet. Realistically, we're looking at 2026 or beyond. The Riot MMO has been in development since 2020, but after hitting a creative roadblock, they reset the project in early 2024, with Riot co-founder Mark Merrill stating the team would be going dark for several years. At Worlds 2024, Riot said the MMO is still alive and that the team now has a strong direction. Recent job listings suggest internal work is still ongoing, but we're likely still years away from this one and probably won't see anything public before 2027. You may remember all the way back in 2018 when it was announced that Amazon Game Studios would be working on a Lord of the Rings MMO with Chinese publisher LIte Technologies. Well, that one got cancelled in 2021, but in 2023, AGS secured a licensing agreement with Middle-earth Enterprises to make a completely new Lord of the Rings MMO. This is being developed entirely in-house by the team behind New World for both PC and consoles. It's said to be an open-world, persistent MMO set in Middle-earth, featuring stories from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Release timeline for this is distant future, but hopefully we'll start seeing some screenshots and early gameplay in 2026. In May 2023, Jackalyptic Games, a newly rebranded studio led by MMO veteran Jack Emmett and backed by NetEase, teamed up with Games Workshop to build a new Warhammer MMO using Unreal Engine 5. They haven't said whether it will be fantasy or 40k, and we've not seen any gameplay or concept art, so still very early stages. What we do know though is that they'll likely go with an action-based combat system. I wouldn't expect anything from this one until the late 2020s if all goes well. Guild Wars 3 is officially in development at ArenaNet, confirmed by NCSoft at a shareholder meeting in 2024. Right now there's no gameplay, no trailers, and Guild Wars 2 is still getting regular expansions, so it's clear the team isn't rushing this. All we really know is that the project exists, it's happening, and it'll be a true follow-up to Guild Wars 2. Considering how long MMOs take to make, I would not expect to play this until well after 2027, but as someone who really enjoyed Guild Wars 2, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they come up with. Light No Fire is a fantasy survival sandbox set on an entire Earth-sized planet that every player explores together. This is being developed by Hello Games, the team behind No Man's Sky, and was announced in late 2023. The goal is massive. RPG depth meets survival sandbox in a shared procedurally generated world, where what you build stays out in the world for others to find. Light No Fire has been quietly worked on for over 5 years and is shaping up to be an insanely ambitious project. No release date yet, but rumours say we could see it late 2025 or 2026. Architect Land of Exiles is an upcoming Unreal Engine 5 Korean MMORPG set in a post-apocalyptic fantasy world after a great flood. The game was first unveiled at G-Star 2024, and personally I wasn't super impressed. The gameplay in the trailer looked quite clunky with static animation locks. It was using a mobile UI and visually it looked quite generic. Perhaps this was just an old build though. Design-wise, the game is aiming to offer a high-freedom open-world experience without fast travel, encouraging players to explore on foot or with mounts and wings. It's got an action combat system, 5 classes so far, and is eyeing a 2025 release in Korea, with a Western release coming later on. Where Winds Meet is releasing globally on November 14th, 2025, and is a game split into 2 modes, the MMO mode and the single-player mode. It's looking like the MMO mode will be light on the massively multiplayer aspect come global launch initially, but Where Winds Meet already released in China in December 2024, and now has many more MMO elements with up to 1,000 players in the open world, and things like 50 vs 50 guild vs guild battles. After playing the beta of Where Winds Meet, I was genuinely impressed by the sheer scope of this game. Giant open world, action combat, too many features to even list, and it deserves a spot on this list because it's highly likely to evolve its MMO portion to mimic the features currently present in the Chinese version. Oh, and the game also doesn't appear to be pay to win, instead going for the free-to-play plus cosmetic gacha and battle pass approach to monetization. Stars Reach is the new sandbox sci-fi MMO from Ralph Costa, the guy behind Ultima Online and Star Wars Galaxies. It's set in one giant shared galaxy with procedurally generated planets you can terraform, settle, or even govern. Everything's simulated, rivers flow, forests grow and burn, weather changes, and ecosystems actually react. It's classless progression, player-driven economy, and whole galaxy is one server with no shards. They funded the Kickstarter in under an hour back in February 2025, and it's already playable in pre-alpha for early backers. Full early access is expected late 2025, with launch planned for 2026. Apogea. This is basically a 3D spiritual successor to Tibia and is being made by an indie team of Tibia fans. I covered the Apogea playtest earlier this year and the comments were super positive, with many viewers intrigued from what was shown. It's a passion project and modern take on the classic MMO with charming graphics, a rotatable top-down camera, player housing, and Tibia-style design without hand-holding where you actually need to type to NPCs to figure things out for yourself. The game's had a few playtests and I was personally quite impressed by it. I'd expect this one to release early 2026, so put this on your wish list if you're an ex-Tibia player. Anvil Empires. Now this game looks really cool and has a high chance of success because it's basically the medieval version of the online war MMORPG Foxhole by the same development team. Foxhole was a big success and I've always wanted a medieval version of that, which is exactly what Anvil Empires is. Every soldier and villager in this game is a real player. The game can support up to 1,000 players in a single siege, and a recent public demo pulled in over 12,000 players. Development is still pre-alpha, but we should see this one arrive to Steam Early Access late 2025 or early 2026. Drakantos is a free-to-play, hero-based pixel art MMORPG that I recently covered on the channel with its first closed beta. Since then, the game has gone through some big gameplay improvements to address the feedback from players regarding slow combat and clunky movement. It's already looking a lot better than when I played it. Drakantos features 3-player co-op dungeons, player hubs that give you that MMO vibe, and a charming open world to explore as well as side quests and an MSQ. I'd expect a release from this one late 2025 to early 2026. Formerly known as EverQuest, Adrullan Online Adventures is basically what you'd get if EverQuest got reimagined with Minecraft-style voxels. Built by a tiny American team called Hidden Tree, it's all about classic MMO feels. Think group quests, crafting, races, classes, and lore-driven exploration wrapped in a voxel art style. They've already ran a few tests, with a recent one in July reaching 1,100 concurrent players in the first 30 minutes. Hightail may have gotten cancelled this year, but maybe this one can fill the void. No launch date yet, but it doesn't look too far away from release. Vindictus Defying Fate. Not really an MMO, but it does have light multiplayer elements with 4-player co-op and player hub areas. The original Vindictus wasn't exactly massively multiplayer, yet many MMO fans, including myself, enjoyed it, hence why it's included on this list. Defying Fate transformed the theme and world of Vindictus into a Souls-like action RPG built from scratch in Unreal 5. The game's already had a few test phases and a lot of people are praising the combat. No release date yet, but I'd expect to see this one sometime in 2026 or 2027 at the latest. Sword of Justice Global. Before you write this one off, this is the #1 most popular MMO in China, and I know you're not going to believe this, but it's not pay to win according to every source I can find. From the reviews and feedback, it's said to be one of the fairest big-budget Chinese MMOs to date, with a cash shop comparable to Guild Wars 2. From doing some research, it seems like China is actually clamping down on pay-to-win games via government regulations, so that's good to see. Gameplay-wise, Sword of Justice Global is open-world wuxia themed with a flashy hybrid combat system. It's cross-platform on both mobile and PC. The PC version will have a more PC-style UI, and it's basically got all the MMO features you'd expect. Dungeons, raids, arenas, battlegrounds, and AI companions for solo players. As for a release, I'd expect to see this one before the end of 2025 or early 2026. Profane is a full loot medieval sandbox MMO that's been in development since 2015. The game is currently in alpha testing and features an open world where players can build, craft and control territory. Profane is a classless MMO where your skills grow the more you do them. Progress in this one has been giga slow, so maybe we'll see it in 2026 or later. Crosswind is a 1 to 4 player co-op survival crafting RPG with shared world zones coming later in development, which will introduce towns, PvP arenas and community event areas separate from your private world. So not a full MMO, but a game that I'm looking forward to regardless. Expect crafting, building, ship combat, PvE challenges, and a buy-to-play business model with Steam Early Access coming in 2026. Star Citizen started development in 2012, development costs are over $800 million at this point, still no full release date in sight. The game is playable in alpha testing to a limited capacity, and it's basically the most ambitious gaming project ever. You can buy into Star Citizen for like $50 and play the alpha, but it's still got a ways to go. Pax Dei is a medieval social sandbox MMO in early access on Steam since mid-2024, developed by Finnish studio Mainframe Industries. Everything in Pax Dei is player-made. There are no NPC quest givers, so you need to make your own goals. Build homes, craft weapons, trade, and even claim land to build villages in the open world. Gameplay-wise, it's a classless action combat system, and the game is made in Unreal 5. Pax Dei is targeting a full 1.0 release in fall 2025 with an optional subscription model for bonus perks, but you won't need to actually pay to play. I covered the Pax Dei alpha on the channel earlier this year and I wasn't super impressed, but it's had some big updates since then, so I'll give it another try for the full release to see if it's improved. Warborne Above Ashes. This is a hardcore 24/7 PvP first faction v faction MMO, where you need to pick one of 6 post-apocalyptic factions, then jump straight into massive 100 vs 100 wars. Gameplay wise, it feels like a hero-based AION Online. Traverse the world with mobile bases, craft gear, clear enemy camps and seize control points. No ETA on a full launch, but the early playtests in 2025 pulled in over 30,000 players, and seems to be received well by large-scale PvP fans. I'd personally expect this one late 2025 to 2026. Scars of Honor is a free-to-play fantasy MMO in pre-alpha from Bulgarian indie studio Beast Burst. It's going for a classic WoW-inspired feel with battlegrounds, dungeons, player housing, guild halls, and promises of no pay-to-win. The game's had a few early tests already showing off PvP battlegrounds and some basic classes, with bigger systems like land ownership and scalable raids also in the works. Scars of Honor is aiming for a major testing phase in late 2025, but it's still looking like a year or two out before a full release. Cinder City, formerly known as Project LLL, is NCSoft's upcoming third-person MMO shooter built in Unreal Engine 5. In this game, you'll be dropped into a post-apocalyptic Soul that blends ancient and future tech with combat that looks like a combination of The Division and Warframe. NCSoft are targeting the second half of 2026 for a Cinder City global release on both PC and consoles. CorePunk is a top-down MMORPG with MOBA-like combat that was initially announced in 2019 and came to Steam Early Access in late 2024. The game has a cyber fantasy theme, quests, crafting, PvP, dungeons, and is buy-to-play with no pay-to-win. I covered CorePunk during the initial Early Access release and didn't enjoy it too much. However, in 2025 it's had a lot of updates that have addressed feedback by the player base. As for a full launch, we're looking at late 2025 to early 2026. Imagine if someone made a game that was a pure WoW-style Mythic Plus experience with no leveling, no questing, no open world, just dungeons, gear, progression, and an MMO-style hub area to hang out in. That's basically Fellowship. It's aimed at people who love MMO dungeons and challenging co-op PvE experiences with leaderboards, ranked modes, and endless scaling. I think this could be a great game to boot up if you're hanging out in Discord with some friends and want to instantly queue some co-op PvE content together for some quick 10 to 20-minute runs. Fellowship is launching to Steam Early Access on October 9th, 2025 and will be buy to play. Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is a spiritual successor to EverQuest, and after a lengthy 10 years of development, entered early access on Steam in December 2024. Pantheon is a classic tab-targeting MMO that's heavily designed around group play, with large dungeons, a seamless open world, and exploration. Pantheon is still likely multiple years away from a full 1.0 release, but at least it's finally playable with a small dedicated community. Monsters and Memories is an indie old-school MMO being built by a small team that includes former EverQuest developers. It's aiming to capture that classic style of slow, deliberate combat, group-focused progression, and meaningful consequences for death. The devs have already ran stress tests with over 1,000 players online, and are planning for more public playtests throughout 2025. The game started development back in 2020 and is targeting an early access release early 2026. It's going to be a sub-fee business model at $15 per month, with no pay-to-win or cosmetic cash shop. Spawn World, an Unreal Engine 5 full-loot PvPvE sandbox MMO by a small indie team that includes ex-Blizzard and Darkfall devs. Combat is aiming to be fast and skill-based, no levels or classes, players can build settlements, partake in large-scale territory wars, and the game will also feature procedural NPC factions powered by AI that respond with dynamic behaviour. Still early days on this one, but Steam Early Access is scheduled for Q3 2026. Looking at the early trailer, I wasn't too hopeful for this one, but seeing it's made by actual experienced devs that seem to be taking advantage of the latest tech, maybe it'll be a pleasant surprise. Brighter Shores, free-to-play MMO in early access by Andrew Gower, one of the guys behind RuneScape. It's a point-and-click adventure in a rune-based fantasy world featuring story-driven quests and RuneScape-style skilling. I tried this game when it first came to early access. I didn't really like it, but there's been some big updates addressing player feedback since then, so perhaps it's worth a revisit for the full release, which is likely to be second half of 2026. Eternal Tombs, previously known as War of Dragnaroks, is a sandbox fantasy MMO from Triune Studios that's taking a very unique approach to MMO design, with live dungeon masters actively shaping the world. They've been running pre-alpha tests for a few years now, with thousands jumping in, and the game's currently polishing up its combat and UI to gear up for more public tests around October 2025. This one's aiming straight for a full launch without early access, so expect it sometime in 2026 or a bit later. Legendarium Online is an indie sandbox MMO from a small Ukrainian studio. It's full loot PvP, there are no levels or classes, and progression comes from about 140 different skills that you can mix and match. Features include housing, sailing, and non-target action combat. The game is still in pre-alpha with small playtests already held, so maybe we'll see this one come to early access in 2026. Past Fate is an open-world medieval fantasy MMO from Finnish indie studio Icy North Games. It's aiming for a sandbox experience with both PvE and PvP, featuring dungeons, naval combat, multiple factions to join, mounts, housing, crafting, and large-scale battles. The game is classless with progression tied to the skills you use. It's still in closed alpha with the occasional playtest, and whilst early access was once planned for 2022, realistically it's looking more like late 2025 or 2026. Atlas. This is a wildcard pick. When I first saw it, I thought it looks absolutely awful, and despite looking like a low-poly furry RP game from the mid-2000s, it's overwhelmingly positive on Steam, so it must be doing something right. Atlas isn't a proper MMO, but it's a third-person action RPG with MMO elements. Quests, dungeons, loot, class selection, co-op play, and online modes. A full release is expected late 2025, but warning, it might turn you into a furry, so do be careful. Bitcraft Online is an MMORPG all about joining a community and carving out your own piece of an absolutely massive world map. You can terraform, build settlements, craft and level up your skills solo or with others, and the game's very recently came to Steam Early Access and could be looking at a full release in 2026 or 2027. Personally, I'd wait for more updates before jumping in because whilst it's a nice second monitor game, the combat needs a lot of improvement. The Quinfall is a sandbox MMORPG that came to Steam Early Access in 2025 and is developed by a very small indie team with one actual developer. The game has an insanely long list of features that even in its unpolished state I find quite impressive that it was made by one guy. Quinfall's biggest issues have been that the game didn't have strong anti-cheat, and content-wise it's quantity over quality. As for a full release, I'd say multiple years away. Ethereal Echoes of Yore had a very rough launch in 2023 as a RuneScape-inspired indie MMO, but after a takeover, it relaunched free-to-play as an open alpha with full loot PvP, class swapping, crafting, housing, and world bosses, basically a throwback to old-school MMOs. They've since added a hardcore mode, new bosses, new areas, and improved the game's fundamentals. They've mapped out updates through 2027, at which point they're hoping for a full launch. Similar to Pantheon, Camelot Unchained is also featured on every upcoming MMO list for the past decade. Unlike Pantheon, however, this one's not playable as of making this video. Camelot Unchained is a Realm vs Realm MMO built with its own engine that started development back in 2012. The team had talks about a late 2025 release, but given their track record with dates, I highly doubt it. Clearly a game in development hell that I'm not sure we'll ever see release. City of Titans, a superhero MMO that's also been on every upcoming MMO list since its successful Kickstarter in 2013. The goal is to basically bring back the spirit of City of Heroes. Development efforts have recently been focused on upgrading to Unreal Engine 5.6. The game isn't currently playable and there's no early access or release date in sight. The next few games I'm going to mention are highly speculative and some might just be pure rumours, but I want to give them a quick mention at the end of the video. Take all of these with a tiny grain of salt. Project Fantasy by IO Interactive. IO Interactive pulled the curtain back in 2023 to say they're making a new online fantasy RPG, calling it a passion project and citing fighting fantasy and tabletop RPGs as inspirations. Beyond that, everything is speculation. We know they've said it's online and there's rumours it could be multiplayer or MMO-ish, but that's based on LinkedIn job posts, no official word, no platform, no release window, so yeah, treat it with a tiny grain of salt. There's been official confirmation that a new EverQuest game is in the works. It's not being described as EverQuest 3, but more of a reboot or reimagining of the original. EG7 has hinted at a possible launch window around 2028. Job listings suggest it's an online multiplayer title built in Unreal Engine, but beyond that, nothing concrete is truly known right now. Perfect New World. You may remember this game featuring on a few upcoming MMO lists for the past few years, and after running a closed beta test, it looked set for release at the end of 2023. Since then though, it's gone completely silent. There's been no official shutdown announcement, but also no new updates, which has led to speculation that the project may have been quietly shelved. For now, it's unclear if development is still ongoing, or if this one is dead in the water. Terra 2. There's no official announcement from Krafton yet, but Inven Global, a fairly credible Korean outlet, recently reported that Terra 2 is officially in the early stages of development by a new team under Bluehole Studios' R&D division. This could be a rumour, but even if it isn't, the game is still likely super early stages of development, and we're likely not going to see it before 2030. Still, I hope this one is true because the original Terra was a lot of fun. But that's it for this video. There's actually a lot of MMOs in development right now, way more than previous years where I've made these kind of lists. And it's cool to see that many games that featured on upcoming MMOs lists year on year have started releasing either fully or in an early access state. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next year for the MMO genre. If you enjoyed this vid or got any value out of it, please help us out with a like as it took a lot of time and research to make. Also subscribe to the channel to keep up with the latest MMO news, reviews and announcements. Thanks for watching, social media on screen, and I'll see you in the next one.